Hey guys, welcome to this week's bonus activity. This week I'm going to show you how to create something called a stained glass window. But we're not going to be using glass for this. Instead, we're going to be using a clear plastic bag as our stained glass, and you will actually be able to hang this on your window, and then the light will shine through it, making beautiful colors on your floor and different reflections. For this project, you will need the following things: some kind of clear plastic Ziplock bag of any size you choose, some form of permanent markers like Sharpies, scissors, tape of some kind, it doesn't really matter what kind, and optional is a scrap piece of paper that you can put on top of your bag to help you cut out the correct shape. So let's get started and I'll show you how to do this. When creating your stained glass window, the first thing you need to do is decide what shape you are going to make it. If you want to make it just a rectangle, that is easy. You can just cut out a rectangle of your clear plastic bag. However, if you want to try to make it a little more challenging or a little more interesting, you can use a scrap piece of paper to draw out your shape to help you cut it out perfectly on your bag. So for example, say I want to draw a cross. I'm first going to draw it either with pen, pencil, or marker on my paper. I'm going to draw the image. On my paper first, just like this. Next, I'm going to cut it out. I chose a cross because stained glass windows are very common in churches all around the world. And so I wanted to choose a symbol like the cross that represents God, the Bible, and the church. I'm next going to take my shape and put it on top of my bag. I'm going to take just 2 or 3 pieces of tape and create what we call as a tape bubble, which means I form it into a little donut here. I'm going to place that on the back of my scrap paper. I'm going to actually use 4, so I have 1 on each corner. 3 and 4. I'm going to tape that down onto my bag. This is going to help this hold still so I can cut this out correctly. Next, I'm going to open my bag. I'm going to begin to cut my shape. Now I am going to cut it a little bit larger than my shape that I created, and I'll show you why in a little bit. So you could really draw any shape with this. Shapes that have straight lines are easier, but if you want to do something like a heart, you could also do that. So once I have this cut out, I can either save the rest of the bag to do another one, or I can get rid of the bag. It's really up to you. So now I've cut out my plastic. I can take my model off, and it's right here on my table. Okay? So now that I have it all cut out, I'm ready to put my tape around the edges. I'm going to be putting it on the front and on the back. I'm going to be using duct tape because it's just darker tape, but really use any tape you have. If you only have clear tape or masking tape, packing tape, any kind of tape, if you have colored duct tape, that would also work. So I'm going to do a little bit of this and show you what it looks like. So you will see here that I have taped my outer edges. Yes, this is taped to my table, so make sure you use an object that you can take tape off of easily. Now when I do place my tape on, I only cover the edge very slightly. I do not want to cover the entire thing with tape. That's why I created it a little larger than my original design, because I would be covering the very edges of it with the tape. Notice how I put it on right like that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off of my table very carefully. I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to put tape on the other side so that I won't have any sticky sides, okay? So I'm going to show you some tricks that I'm doing as I'm putting this tape on. My tape is really thick, so I found that I can cut it in half, so I end up saving tape. I want to line up my edges as closely to the ones underneath as I possibly can, so I don't see random tape on the other side. That will not look very nice for the end product. If I don't cover that bottom tape completely, that's totally fine because I can trim the edges when I am finished. So I'm just slowly and carefully cutting my pieces and laying them right on top of where the ones underneath are. This will create the nice border for my stained art. Once I'm finished taping down all the sides, I have two choices. I could first color it and then trim the sides, or I could trim, which means cut the edges first. I think it's personally easier to color it first because you already have it kind of taped down, so it's not going to move on you. However, if you would rather cut it first, that is personal preference and that is totally fine. I'm going to be using various colors of Sharpies to color this in. You can choose to use whatever kind of markers you want. If you do not have permanent markers, you could also try using a tempera or acrylic paint mixed with a little bit of water so it becomes kind of see-through. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is take a black marker and divide this into different shapes. It really doesn't matter what kind of shapes it is. It's really however you want. Okay. Once I've divided it into shapes, I'm then going to start coloring in each shape. So I'm going to do it in such a way so that hopefully none of my colored areas touch each other. Try your best to not get it on the tape outside of it, but if you do, not a problem. Just try to wipe it off if you can. Now when you are finished coloring, I do suggest you try to let your Sharpies dry for just 30 seconds to a minute so that they won't smear on you. Try to look at it from different angles to make sure you haven't missed any edges or missed coloring in any spaces. Once you are satisfied with it, you can then carefully lift it off the table. You can see how beautiful it's already becoming. It's a little hard to see it quite right now on this brown table, but I'm going to show it to you on a different few views very soon. So my final step here is I'm going to take my scissors. I'm going to carefully trim the edges to make them even. You may need some adult help with this because since it is sticky, it can be kind of difficult to cut. So just go slow. It's taking shape very nicely. And I am almost done. There we go. So all these extra tape pieces, you could try to use them for something or you could get rid of them. Here is my cross. Let me show it to you on a window. Okay guys, so I am ready to place this on my window. Here's what it looks like right now. In order to place it, you could use some form of tape or adhesive to stick it to your window. Just be careful that it won't hurt your window in any way. I'm just going to put a little tape bubble right behind it. And I'm going to stick it right there on my window. And you will see how you can see through the colors. Looks very beautiful. So when the sun shines directly on the window, it may even shine colors right on your floor, which is super cool. So I hope you enjoy making your stained glass window shape, and I hope yours turns out really well.